I was making an announcement about being muted, and I was actually muted myself, so just muting everybody for the sound quality there. Start in a minute or two. A few more people coming in there, I think, aren't there, John? Just a little couple of people there. Yeah. William, would you just mind texting some of our guests just to make sure they've got the right link there? Hello, William. Are you with us?
Hello.
Hi.
Yes.
Would you mind just texting Phil and Kate to make sure they've got the right link there?
Yeah, they have. I said they were okay to come on at about 22, so I think they might join us once we're up and running.
Okay, no problem. Well, we'll get going, because this little moment now is welcome and chit chat. So you've just seen a little bit of chit chat in action there. I'm Tanya, and William is my husband. He's a rector of St Matthias, which is in Killiney, just south of Dublin. And neither of us are actually in Killiney at the moment. I'm in the UK, and William's in Gorey in Wexford. So that's the joy of Zoom right now. And we ran the parenting course at courses in January this year, and we made the decision to run them in 1 week. On Tuesday, the parenting children course, and on Wednesday, the parenting teenagers course, during January for 5 weeks. And it was a blast, and we'll tell you a bit more about that as we go along. And feel free to ask us anything you want to know. I'll let you know a little bit more about the course structure in a minute. William, is there anything you want to say there about that? I think you're going to be answering questions later, so don't do any spoilers now.
No spoilers, except just to say it's lovely to be at my country pad in Gorey. I'm down here with my auntie in her home, and we've just had a lovely Indian takeaway, and I'm being treated like royalty. So it's a bit like being at your granny's, but even better.
That's why I've left the country. I can't compete with that kind of care.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll get going, and we've got some other people joining us during the course. It's lovely to see you. I'm feeling now like I know you quite well at this stage. Thank you for joining. I'm just going to pass over to Dominic, who's our National Director. We ran the parenting courses online, but in the last couple of weeks, Alpha Ireland International have given us a few guidelines on running those courses, and Dom will give you a bit of an update on those.
Hi everyone, it's so nice to see you all, so many friends on this call, and nice to be here with you. I just wanted to let you all know that just in terms of running the parenting course, which we're all really excited about because it's a cool opportunity to reach out to people in our community and to really build them up and build up families. We do have a request, or you might say a little nuance to running it due to the rights connected to the film. So effectively, when we run the Alpha course or the marriage course, the marriage courses, it's absolutely fine to share the video on a Zoom call like this, so everyone can watch it together, streaming the video online, just like we're streaming this call. So sharing screen, pressing play. Now with the parenting courses, we actually don't have the rights to stream it online. So what we have to request you do is play it from a USB stick. So when you join or plan the course, everybody comes in, but then everyone watches it separately. Now you watch it at the same time on the course, but you don't stream it online. So you need one of these. Now we'll tell you how to get your hands on one. So basically it means that the members or the participants in the course have to sort of have one of these, watch it, and then have the discussion like we're having just now. Now that's a bit different to the way that other courses are run online, but it is to do with film rights, if you could believe that, and just respecting the agreements that were made with particularly the families and the children who were in the parenting courses. And again, I hope you can understand it's just one of those things that we're trying to respect. But fear not, we will tell you how to get one of these. And so when you're running the course, you will all have one, all the participants will have one, and they'll be able to watch it from here rather than stream it online. Okay, I'll pass back to you, Tanya.
Thanks, Tom. So that's just a slight change on things in the last few weeks, but I really don't think that that would change the direction of the course at all. So just to lay out the nuts and the bolts of this course, the two courses. There are two courses. There's a parenting children's course, which is for, as John has put there, 0 to 10 children, parents of children who are 0 to 10, and there are 5 sessions. Over five sessions. You can do this over 5 weeks or 10 weeks. So within a 5-week course, which we did, you watch a video, you break for a discussion, you watch another video and you break for a discussion. And we had that all done, I think, William will correct me if I'm wrong, within an hour and a half. So you've got the sort of a half-hour video, which obviously everyone will go away and watch, come back together 15 minutes or so, half-hour video, come back together 15 minutes or so. So you can really promise quite tight timing on that. And people have a manual, guest manual to look through while they're doing that. And you can see the topics there: building strong foundations, meeting our children's needs, setting boundaries, teaching healthy relationships, and our long-term aim in parenting. And they really are excellent topics. It's an 11-year-old course. It has some of it obviously is slightly dated. I'll talk about that in a minute. But actually, in pandemic, we found this to be a really strong foundation for family life. And when we're all a bit back to basics anyway, there's a lead couple who are the same couple who run the marriage course, and then there are interviews with parents, with children, and with psychologists and other experts in parenting. So the second course that we ran is the Parenting Teams course, which is 11 to 18 years, keeping the end in mind, meeting our teenagers' needs, setting boundaries, developing emotional health, and helping them make good choices. That's the 5 weeks. You can run it over 10 weeks if you want to watch one video a week. We did 5 weeks with 2 videos a week, and the discussion groups in between. Once again, this is an 11-year-old course, but I think the foundations stand fairly solidly for as a universal principles. The only thing, when I'm going to discuss this with Debbie later, the only thing that is missing is an up-to-date view on social media and online activities for teenagers, and we have a few suggestions around that, and I imagine in the fullness of time they will update this to address that. But these topics stood the test of time in my mind. Well, I will interview people later who might tell you something different, but we felt they were good principles. I'll just check my also, during the course of this evening, we're going to talk about how we ran it online. Emily, who's a member of the Alpha team, is going to talk to you a little bit more with Rebecca and Neve about how to run it on site when we're back to normal, how you might just gather together in real time, looking at people in real places, and run it online. So we on site. So we will address that as well. Is there anything I've forgotten there, John, or would you like to go into a promo video that we made earlier in the year?
Hi, my name's Elaine. I did the parenting course in 2019 just because I wanted to see and listen to the experiences of other people, other parents in my local area. I found it really helpful. I found the most helpful thing really was to be safe in the knowledge that you're not on your own. Everybody's experiencing the same things, and it's really reassuring to know that. And to be able to be in a space where you can talk to people honestly and openly about your experiences and the things you're going through as a parent. And yeah, it was a really positive experience.
I had actually previously done a parenting course when my children were babies. We had at the time 3 children under 3, and it was pretty exhausting time. And someone invited me on a parenting course just to kind of get to know some other mums and yeah, get some advice on how to navigate through the baby stage. I found it really, really useful. I felt encouraged that I wasn't on my own, that other people were having sleepless nights, and the things that my babies were doing was quite normal, and that makes you feel really encouraged. And I also got tips on how best to parent our kids as they grew up.
Yes, it had a great impact. It was good to see that I wasn't alone. Chatting with some of the other parents at the table helped me to see some of the common things that we struggled with. One thing it helped me to see was that my teenager doesn't necessarily read me the way I think he reads me, and so to help me tweak my response to him.
I really loved the relaxed but structured atmosphere of the course, how we could sit around and have a tea or a coffee with a group of parents and discuss different situations. I loved the way the videos introduced us to the different families on a regular basis and how they worked through their challenges for their children and for themselves.
It increased confidence in parenting, and I realized, you know, we all know we're all in the same boat, but we really are all in the same boat. We're dealing with the same problems. You know, as a mother, I often find I might be alone, but actually we're not. All our friends have the same situations at home, and it was so good to share them, to be honest amongst parents and get their tips. You know, the course really got a lot of the right questions to get us talking. They're sort of, in a way, open-ended questions that gave us the ability to explore what was happening in our families and in our community.
Yeah, and really this course is for you, the parent, and how you can tweak things in a way that will help you be a better parent. And I know from my own experience, each time, and we've done the parenting course quite a few times, each time there's been bits that I've maybe had to relearn, to improve on, and in that way hopefully be a better parent.
Well, thank you, John. That was great. Doesn't get old, that kind of intro there. So I'm just going to introduce you to William, who you've already met, and Phil and Kate, who've joined us from Shankill. I'll just ask you to unmute Phil and Kate. That's great. So, Phil and Kate were on our course in January, the Parenting Children course. William's just going to chat to them a little bit about their experience.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tanya. Phil and Kate, welcome. It's really good to see you both, and this is just an excellent opportunity to quiz you for just a few minutes about the parenting course. But just to begin with, can you let us know a little bit about yourselves and your family situation and how you're connected to St Matthias Church?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, happy to. So obviously we're married. We've lived in Ireland now for just over 5 years. We moved over from London where we met. We have 2 children, 2 wonderful children. So we have Harry, who is just turned 3, and Lily, who is just over 1. So fairly full on at that stage where there's a lot going on. In terms of the connection to St Matthias, there's a few, but I'll keep it reasonably simple. So ultimately, I guess it's a family connection in that the church that I went to as when I was growing up was also connected to William and Tanya. And actually a sort of unusual fact was that William and I actually went to the same school back in the UK. So there was original sort of family friend connection. So when we were living in the local area, we made the connection, and then we started going along to the church last year.
Wonderful, thank you. And I should hasten to add, it's obviously fairly obvious, but Phil was at the same school as me many years after I was there. So next question for you both is why did you decide to come on the Parenting Children course at this particular time? And did it help, do you think, that we were running it online? And if yes, why was that?
I think it kind of came about back in January. I think Phil got the email and said, would you be interested? And I suppose it was right down in the middle of lockdown 3, I think. we felt sure, why not? We're doing nothing else with our evenings. This would be a nice opportunity to, I suppose, reflect back on parenting. We kind of take it for granted every day, and it just gives us a bit of space to think about what we're doing and what we want to do, and what we'd like to change, and what we're doing well, and those type of things. So yes, the fact that it was online, I think, meant that both of us could attend very easily. Otherwise it would have involved getting babysitters, and yeah, that would have been a bit of a hassle, I feel. And the fact that we could put the kids to bed, know they're kind of happy and safe upstairs, and then just log in. We didn't have to kind of get out and drive anywhere. And yeah, I mean, it did have its downsides. It would have been lovely to meet everybody in person, obviously, but I felt it was very accessible for us as a couple to be able to do the parenting course together.
No, I'd agree with that. And I think almost it was almost an opportunity that arose, and we both just felt like it was actually a really good time to invest in our parenting. There's so much dynamic stuff happening with the kids, and I think it felt like it was the right thing to do, and it was just a really good opportunity. And then I think, as Kate said, then the fact that it was like so straightforward to do it online was brilliant. So I think it was sort of a combination of those things, really.
Great. That's really, really helpful. Thank you both. Now, of course, this course was put together about 10 years ago in its current state. And so there's a sense in which it's dated in some ways. But Kate, you're a child psychologist, which is brilliant. So the question really is primarily to you, but Phil, you're very welcome to chip in on this. What did you think about the overall message and the strategies and advice that the parenting course gave to you both?
I thought it was kind of bang on point. I've run parenting workshops for my job, but haven't actually attended a parenting workshop as a parent, and that was a different experience. But there's nothing that was said on that course that I haven't said in a parenting workshop, or there's nothing that was said on that course that jarred with me in any way. I think there was one statistic about screen time, and just I would use the WHO guidance on screen time, but that was the only thing that I noticed, like, oh, that's different. But everything else was exactly as I kind of would. Well, it's what I would say, it's what I hope I do. I don't know necessarily if I do it all the time, but yeah, it was kind of bang on point. Yeah, good
news. Phil, did you want to? You don't need to add anything, but if you did want to, I don't want to leave you.
I mean, I think the only thing I would have observed is having conversations with Kate after the course and stuff. But each evening we'd talk about it a bit after the course is finished or whatever. I could clearly see it was something that sort of resonated with you, and that you could clearly see the logic in it, and sort of the helpful psychological underpinning to certain parts of it in particular. So yeah, and I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Kate, thank you. That's a huge sigh of relief to hear your endorsement. That would have been awful if you'd said, actually, gosh, this goes against all the best advice of clinical psychology. So no, that's great. So the next question is this: did you find the discussion groups helpful? And if yes, what in particular was helpful about the discussion groups?
Yeah, we were thinking a bit about this, and absolutely yes. And it was, I think for me there was sort of a couple of elements that the big thing was it normalized a lot of, because it was really helpful that we were in the group, the breakout groups we were in with the other people, the other couples and people in the group had children of similar ages. So it was really helpful to be like, yep, they're all quite similar. It normalizes the struggles, the things that you're going through. And also it was really helpful where the kid might be a year or two older and they'd be like, oh, we found this was helpful, and you could share different stories. So I think it was that sense of it normalized some of the challenges and the behaviors that you were kind of maybe going through. It was really nice to meet some lovely people. They're like really, really genuinely nice people. And and I felt the way that it was positioned, it was solution focused, it was inclusive, there was no judgment, there was no sort of like, this is the way it should be. It was a genuinely kind of open discussions. So yeah, I think they complemented the videos really well.
Yeah, if anything, I perhaps would have liked them longer. I felt there was so much to discuss, but yeah, and then they finished and I was like, oh, I would have liked to have that chat a bit longer. Yeah.
And I guess if we weren't in lockdown, and maybe you could have made arrangements to meet up, or if it certainly been if you'd done it on site, then of course you'd have had the chance for the chat as you went to the cars or afterwards. That's really, again, really helpful. Thank you. Well, the final question, and this is quite a tricky one, so I'll give you a moment to think about this, but are there any takeaways from the course that you've tried or found helpful, or has it made you aware of anything that you now do or you've stopped doing as a result of being on the course? So how did this cash out?
Very well. You go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there've been quite a number of things actually that we've not just saying this, we genuinely have put in place. So I think there was a concept of offering choices, particularly to a kind of a toddler. So it's like, we can have the choice. It's your choice to do this, or it's your choice to do this, and doing that within boundaries, so that you're helping them to rationalize and to think through the decision. And actually, we found with Harry that he does actually tend to take the, go with the choice, that actually with a bit of an incentive sometimes thrown in, it is really helpful. And so that's been something we now do, is very commonplace. And then the other principle which we found quite helpful was the halt kind of principle. So that if there's bad behavior and things happening, just try and step back and be like, are they hungry, angry or anxious, lonely or tired? And again, because a lot of the time you can think, oh, your child is just misbehaving, or they're just being naughty. Actually, there's probably often an underlying driver, and I think that often links back to some of the psychology of, if ultimately it's difficult to behave well if you are hungry or tired or whatever, from a basic needs perspective. So I think for me, those would be a couple of the things that we've put in place.
Yeah, and then even linking to that halt is, I suppose, it's making us perhaps a bit more patient in those moments, so we don't perhaps charge in, and just kind of just allow him to express his big feelings. And one thing, I don't know if it came up actually in one of the videos or in the discussion group, but was the element of making sure you have kind of regular fun moments. And I think it was a video that had people reminiscing on times that they had spent with their parents or with their children. And one of the guys in our group said that he arrives home from work every Friday with treats in his bag, and his children run up, and it's just a regular thing that when daddy's home on Friday, we all run to the bag. And so we've actually implemented cinema night. Well, I can't go to cinemas at the moment, but cinema night on Saturday nights. Wow, so we get to watch a Disney film. Inevitably it's one of three, because we don't move. we don't.
Frozen or Cars. Or Finding Dory. Yeah,
we've tried to branch, it hasn't gone down well. But yeah, and then we have our dinner. We don't do it every night at all, but it's once a week. We sit down and we cinema night, and he adores it. Absolutely adores it. So that's been a really positive thing that we've taken from the course.
And I think the other, it's a bit of a wrapper, but just the sense of like fun was always a really, I thought the way it was actually presented on the videos, you could always say there was a good sense of fun and enjoyment, and I think that trying to make sure you maintain that and keeping things light even when in the challenging moments, I think is also kind of a key thing we've taken from it.
Yeah,
brilliant. Thank you both so much. That was so helpful. Thank you. Emily, over to you.
Actually, it's over to me.
Oh, Tanya.
I think it might be back to Tanya, is it?
Yeah, it is. Thank you. Thanks, Phil and Kate. It's lovely to hear that. I don't think because we haven't met in person again yet. I haven't heard that. Just as alongside Phil and Kate coming to the Parenting Children course on a Tuesday there, we ran the Parenting Teenagers course on a Wednesday. And I know Debbie through Alpha. She helps very fundamentally with our accounting and all our finances, and I know Debbie had a teenager, so I just asked her if she'd come along to the parenting course, and she did. And I'm just going to ask Debbie a few questions so that she'd give us an insight onto her experience of the online teenagers course. So Debbie, can you let us know a little bit about your family and yourself?
Okay, well, there's just 3 of us, myself, my husband, and my 13-year-old daughter Sarah, and 2 dogs, one who will snore throughout this, and I do apologize to the wider audience because he'll come through, and I'm sorry. I keep kicking him to try and wake him up. We're Irish born and bred, so we haven't moved too far from home.
Thanks, Debbie. And what made you say yes? I asked you, but what made you say yes at that time? You didn't have to.
Well, it was actually, the timing was brilliant, Tanya, because like Sarah's turned 13, so she's just entering that stage, which you know, where we've heard they kind of change overnight. Like, we've heard these horror stories. She's been a grandkid all along, and you know, we've been told it's not going to last, it's not going to last. So I haven't had no previous experience. She's our only daughter, only child. I just wanted to be as prepared as I could be. I came to parenthood quite late. I'm technically a geriatric mother, so all my peers, they've been through this a long time ago, so it felt like it would be a really good idea to hook up with people who have kids around the same age, and you know, learn from them.
Great, good timing then. And so, be really honest, what did you think of the course structure and the use of it online there?
Well, I liked it. I really liked it. First of all, the online was perfect for me because, you know, after a busy day, you know, you're not really inclined to want to head out physically, you know, particularly if it's going through winter and, you know, it's raining and all that. So being able to go online with a decent cup of tea really suited me. That was perfect. I thought the format worked very well online, you know, playing the clips and then breaking off into smaller groups to discuss it. I think Kate mentioned it as well. I probably would have preferred if there was slightly longer in the discussion groups as opposed to, you know, sort of the actual video. Though in saying that, obviously, like the diversity in the families in the video were really good, and I was really impressed with that because you got a lot of different angles on things. But I guess I maybe related more to people in the breakout group, and yeah, I think we picked up some good tips from each other.
It's really helpful. I think that's down to us, Debbie, because we're so paranoid at church and Alpha to get everything in time. So we probably cut it short there, but it's good. It's really good feedback to hear that. And once again, is there anything? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
there was just one thing actually on that as well. I did wonder about the age groupings. That was the only thing when I was thinking this over, because the one I was in was 11 to 18, and I did wonder. So a lot of the people in our group there were at the younger end of that age range. So I think Sarah was probably one of the oldest at 13. And I did wonder if you had a group where like there was 11, 12-year-olds and where the children were 11, 12 and 17, 18, would there be as much in common, or would people be able to relate to it in the same way? So that would be the one thing I would sort of put out there as feedback is, you know, would secondary school children in Ireland, would secondary school be more appropriate than 11 upwards?
Yeah, that's a good point actually. And I think 11 is the UK secondary school age, so that's probably where they took that line from. That's a good point. And I kind of felt
at 11, you know, my daughter was still thinking of Santa Claus and things like that, you know, and, you know, even now I can see, you know, they're starting to talk about sort of boys and sex and drugs and, you know, and there seemed to be quite a jump after 12 anyhow.
That's a really good point. We might be able to feed that back in. And is there anything for you that's worked or not worked that you took away from the call?
Yeah, the big thing for me that I actually got out of it was using the time to talk when they want to talk and not when I want to talk. So and I found Sarah really opens up late at night, like when she's ready for bed. She seems to, you know, want to talk to you then. And previously I've been kind of saying, oh, you know, it's late and, you know, you school in the morning and, you know, just you need to go to sleep. But since the course, we've been using that more to, you know, just to talk about what she wants to bring up. And yeah, that's been really, really good. I also found the whole topic around negotiating, that was very good, because like every day, the way I'm looking at it now, every day is actually a series of kind of small negotiations, and it allows her to participate or feel she's participating a lot more in decisions that affect her. And even like she did her first solo trip into the city centre over the weekend, and we worked out the rules between us, rather than us saying, you know, you have to be home at 4 and you have to, you know, do this and do that. We shared how it was going to work, and she was really good then. She didn't mind updating me because she had agreed what was important, and, you know, that what she would do. Unknown to her, I did spend most of the day tracking her on the iPhone, but that's because I'm paranoid.
I was going to let everybody know there. So Debbie told us some great tracking your children tips when she was on the course. I'm just going to cut to ask you the other question there, Debbie, because I know that you raised, I think constantly through our teenage one, the social media issue came up, and online screen time. So Debbie did obviously give the hot tip of how to track your children when they're out and about, but what particular area were you looking for a bit of guidance for, Debbie?
So it probably was even less the amount of time they spend on the screen, even though it probably would be good to, you know, suggestions as to how you can make them understand how that impacts them, because you know, otherwise it does look like we're just laying down the law. And you know, social media and screen time it's nearly a course in itself, isn't it? So I know we're probably not looking at, you know, the technical side and how you keep up to date with things, and maybe it is worth making that clear that the course isn't trying to do that. There are plenty of you know, highly qualified courses out there to do that, but it was really how to discuss things with them. So, you know, there's some kind of quite embarrassing things come up, you know, and about sharing photos, saying, you know, they're always getting photo requests, saying how to say no to that, and because they always feel they're going to, you know, they're going to be cut out of circles if they don't agree with everything. It's how to talk to them around that, how to, you know, friend requests coming in, and, you know, where they're really coming from. It's all about consent, really, you know, sharing photos, blocking. Oh yeah, that was the other thing I was thinking, you know, blocking people and not feeling bad about it. There's a big thing at the moment that, you know, if you block somebody, then she turns everybody against you, and there's this fear the kids have of, you know, being excluded. So it's how to negotiate that with them, without appearing to just be laying down the law to them.
I might be turning to you to help construct this session, actually. Debbie, thanks so much. That's a huge amount of insight there, and we were really grateful to have you on the course.
I enjoyed it, and
not least for the tracking techniques. Thank you. Thanks so much. Well, I'm just going to hand over to Emily now, and Emily's going to interview William.
I'd just like to take a few minutes to have a chat with William. Just to find a little bit about his experience of hosting the parenting course and what effect and impact that course, hosting the course, has had on his church and on the local community. So thanks, William, for taking a few minutes. So I'll start with my first question. How have you found the parenting course to be an effective resource for serving those in your local community, especially parents of preschool or primary school age?
Emily, yeah, thank you. So this was a completely new departure for us, and it was only because of lockdown and because everything was being done online that we were really in a position to do this. And actually it ended up being a real eye-opener for me as a church leader, and I think for Tanya too, for both of us, that we suddenly had a resource that we could offer to obviously parents, but to people in our community, in our church community, and in our sort of wider network of people that we know, that would be a genuine blessing to them and meet them where they are, rather than, often church life is about bringing people to you, to your services and the Christian calendar, whether it's Christmas, Easter, whatever it is, which is wonderful. But this felt different in that it was making those sorts of relational connections in a way that was very practical and very relevant to people's day-by-day needs. And we have a Montessori school, really quite a thriving Montessori school, that meets in our parish centre. And up until this point, we've really had no meaningful connection with the families in that Montessori school, in part because we wouldn't want to impose ourselves on them as a church. And this then suddenly was a wonderful thing we could offer. And the lovely thing was, the lady who runs that Montessori school, Eve, who's delightful, was more than happy to advertise parenting courses. And then we also have a part share in a national school. And again, it's been really hard, you know, for busy parents, busy young families, to make those connections and just bless them, other than saying come to church on Sunday. So yeah, it suddenly has opened our eyes to all sorts of ways.
Well, it's so good to hear. Really is so good to hear. What, you know, going forward then, what do you think the best way to develop and nurture and support those new relationships that you've made?
Well, the wonderful thing is, and I think probably picked up something of this from both Phil and Kate and from Debbie, is that it just builds relationship. And suddenly people who've been on a parenting course, you know, you get to know people. So just in a very general way, it's a lovely way to make new friendships and new contacts. And it puts people in touch with the St Matthias community, I think, in a good way. But one of the sort of more practical thoughts was, you know, you can make known to those people who've been on a parenting course, maybe if you're running a marriage course, which would be maybe the obvious thing for people who came on the parenting course who've never done a marriage course. You could say, well, we're doing something to enrich your marriages, and would you be interested? It may even be an alpha course. People might say, well, I've never really investigated the Christian faith very seriously. Is there any sort of point of entry for somebody who knows very little about Christian faith, or maybe has been outside the church for a long time? So I think that's the other way, Emily, that we could build up those contacts.
Great. And then another perspective I'd just like to ask you to get your opinion on. So how welcoming and beneficial do you think the course is for parents, maybe who haven't come to faith or from a different faith background?
Yeah, I think it makes absolutely no difference whether people have a faith or not with this parenting course. That's why it's so good, because it taps into those things. And I think, again, we've heard from Debbie and we've heard from Kate and Phil that this is, if you like, wisdom for all people. And I think, you know, certainly looking back for Tanya and myself as parents, you know, some of these things are just worth it. Some of these insights are life-giving. Yeah. And I think as it encourages and invests in those most precious relationships we have, I think actually it makes all sorts of connections to bigger questions, and people can either choose to follow those clues or not, and that's absolutely fine. But no, I think no, it's been I don't think it matters whether people are committed to the church or not. I mean, the hope is, of course, they'll come into the community more and more, but that there's no you know, that's a byproduct of what this offers to people.
Yeah, very good. Well, okay, one more question before we let you go, and this is from a kind of different angle, but could hosting the parenting course be another way to develop leadership skills of those people in your church?
Yeah, no, I think this is a great question, because it doesn't have to be a clergyman like me running these courses. These courses can be run by anybody who's got a heart for parenting. and helping people in parenting, and it's very easy to do. That's the wonderful thing about these resources, these online courses, and the parenting course would be a good example of this. It's so well put together, and anyone can run it. So Tanya and I did actually extend 1 or 2 invitations to other people in the church to come alongside and help us with this, but it just was the wrong moment for them. But I think going forward, there's absolutely no reason why other members of the church couldn't run these courses. And that's another wonderful thing about them. It's a sort of democratization of leading things and helping people and teaching. I think it's a very inclusive model, and I think it's an excellent launch pad for anybody who's interested in getting involved in leading and taking a lead in the life of the church.
Very good. That's great to hear. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. We're going to now move into a time of chat in the breakout rooms. We don't have that much time tonight to spend.
Sorry, Emily, sorry to interrupt you. We've decided maybe there's a nice enough group here.
Okay.
And we'll just go for some questions after. Maybe we'll go for them after you've chatted to your next guests, maybe. Because we're slightly over time here. Would that be okay?
That's perfect. Yeah, that's a good idea.
I've taken it from my leader off-site.
Well, we are moving out of this pandemic, I think. We're getting closer to restrictions easing and going back to the way it used to be and in person. And so I just wanted to take some time just to chat to 2 people about their experience of hosting the parenting course in person and also participating. So we have Rebecca Gilday. She is the curate in St Patrick's Church in Greystones, and she hosted a parenting course just before lockdown. And then we also have Niamh Cialig. Niamh was a guest on a parenting course I hosted last January as part of Redcross Church. And I just want to hear what they have to say about their experiences. Rebecca, I'll start with you if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about who you are and your family.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, just readjusting my laptop there. I am a mum of 2. I've got 1 more on the way, so preparing for 3, and they're quite young kids. So I've got a toddler and an 8-year-old. And actually, Alex, who you'd have seen on the video there, she's one of the parents who's talking about doing the parenting course, is a member of our congregation, and she was really keen that we run one. Now we're opposite. Sorry, do you want me to?
No, you can keep going. Yeah,
sort of going into details of what we did there. Yeah, absolutely. So our church is opposite our primary school, Church of Allen Primary School, and so it's great because all the parents kind of pour out as soon as they drop their children. And so we just said, look, it's a great opportunity to catch them. Some of them actually they'd love somewhere to have a coffee and a bit of a chat. So we decided to try and host the parenting course straight after school drop-off, which worked really well. I would say it would have been even better if we'd had childcare on for the parents.
Yeah.
But as it was a great way so people didn't have to get a babysitter. They didn't have to leave their houses after giving their kids dinner and that. And unfortunately, lockdown hit about 3 weeks into the course. So we had to stop it because then everyone was at home with small children. But it was great. It was great for the short time that we ran it.
And were you doing the 5-week course, or were you planning to do it over 10 weeks?
Do you know, we talked about doing it over 5 weeks, but because after drop off, you know, you might have an hour or an hour and a half to spare. It's just a lot to try and cram in. So we were going to go for the 10 weeks.
Very good. So I suppose for someone who's thinking about starting a course now, once we get out of lockdown, what would you say are the 3 most important elements to hosting and welcoming a thought-provoking course?
I would say invitation, like everyone that we had was personally invited by someone.
Yeah.
So get your congregation behind it and get them thinking about, you know, people they could invite to the course. And like William and Tanya did, you know, inviting people from a local Montessori and stuff like that, makes a lot of sense. I think, to be honest, everyone just loves a nice cup of tea and some cake.
Yeah.
Like both when we've done Alpha and when we've done the parenting course, everyone's just talked about the food, like, oh, wasn't that cake great? Or, you know, can't wait to come again for scones next week. So I think that's just a really important part of people feeling welcomed and kind of at home. Just think carefully about the timing, because I think partly with teenagers, but especially with young kids, people just have full-on calendars, and if you run things kind of at 11 o'clock in the morning, that's nap time, or, you know, 7 o'clock at night is bedtime. But just if you get the timing right, you're much more likely to catch people.
Yeah, no, your point about the invitation is really interesting, because I think most people come on any Alpha Parent or parenting course if they're invited personally, rather than a sort of Facebook campaign or anything like that. It's the personal invitation that really encourages people to come. So it's great to hear you say that. Niamh, I might move on to you. Maybe you might just introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, sure. My name is Niamh, and I live in Rathdrum in Wicklow, in a rural setting, with my husband Cormac, and we have 4 daughters, aged from, the youngest is 4 and the eldest is 10.
Great, and I know you've attended, I think you've attended a few parenting courses, or maybe this is your second one. So could you just tell us a little bit about your experiences of attending both of them, and yeah, how you got on?
Yeah, so I actually have done 2. I must have been in the same one as you, whatever, about 9 years ago, I think. But I probably didn't know you back then. So yeah, I did it first when my 2 eldest were like 3 and 2 years old, and that was based in the church in Redcross. And then by contrast, I did it with Emily last year, and that was, sorry, the first one in Redcross was an evening time when it was like maybe 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then last year I did it in Emily's home, and that was in the morning, sort of after drop-offs. That was at about 10 o'clock in the mornings. And so they were very same course, but quite different experiences. And it was really interesting, because I think when I did the first one, I found it a little bit intimidating, because I was kind of new to the area. I didn't know many people, and it was in a church building. It was in the actual church. And I was definitely apprehensive going into it. I went by myself. My husband, because of the time, he was at home minding the kids, but I felt it was so helpful. The thing I remember from the first one was kind of more the videos and that. I don't recall the discussion so much, and I don't know if that's because there was less of it, or just because of the time. But then, and the reason I did, I suppose, back then was because at the time, you know, I was personally invited to do it by somebody in the church. And I was kind of told, look, everyone's does it, everyone's doing it, just come along and do it. So I did it. Whereas, you know, when I've said it to some other people, people are kind of, why would I need a parenting course? People don't understand that it's just something you do, whether you're having problems or not. And, you know, I thought it was so helpful. But it was interesting when I went and did it last year, because obviously my kids are, I have 4 kids at this stage, and from back then they were 9 down to 3. So it was, I didn't realise that the first course had such an impact as it had. I kind of, you know, I'd done it and didn't really realise how much it had sunk in, because it was bizarre when I did the course last year with Emily, how like I knew it all kind of, and just, you know, I was really familiar with it. And no, I don't say I you know, I do the right thing the whole time, but I was familiar with the concepts and stuff, and I was so encouraged by that to realise, gosh, I do have some good practices, and I did learn it in the parenting course the first time, and it just really reassured me that I was kind of had taken something from it, and that I was doing some stuff okay. And but yeah, so when I did it with Emily, the thing I really enjoyed about that was that it was in your home, and that it was really friendly, cozy, that we arrived in. There was lovely coffee and cake, and like, to me, that's a real treat when you have 4 small ones, to have that little bit of time out. So it was much more homely, different environment, and I definitely felt a lot more kind of comfortable. As I kind of knew a couple of the people on the course, some I didn't know at all. But because it was so small, it was just felt much easier. Now, I'm not great at going into things on my own, but because it was a small, smaller setting, there's quite a few on it, but it just felt a lot more comfortable to me. But yeah, sorry.
No, it's really good to hear, and I have to say it is a lot about having other parents there who on your wavelength, they understand what you're going through, and we're all like, oh gosh, that happened to me too, and it's just very reassuring. So I suppose next question I want to ask you is, what did you think of the quality of the talks that given by Nikki and Scylla Lee? Could you relate to their experiences of parenting?
Yeah, to an extent, it's definitely dated. There's no doubt about that. But the most valuable thing they give is they kind of, I mean, they raise a topic for discussion, but they do also give very definite guidance, or there is very definite guidance in the course. So you're definitely taking away clear advice. But really being led into the discussions was what was important. But as other people have said tonight, I just felt the discussions were just so valuable, and just knowing that you're not the only one and you're not in it alone was really one of the huge benefits of doing the course. So I really would have liked probably even a little bit longer of the discussion time, because everyone really did stay on task and on topic during the discussions, and because everyone was really interested, because we were all really learning lots.
Very good. Okay. And so just like I asked Rebecca, so from the perspective of a guest, what tips would you give to someone thinking of hosting a course to make it welcoming and effective and a useful time?
I think just very early on in it, well, first of all, like, it's a real treat to get somewhere to sit down and have a coffee and a piece of cake. Like, that really makes it's really nice. But just to make people know very early on that there's no one judging you, and we're all having difficulties, and so it just helps going into, say, your house, Emily, and you immediately maybe said something like, oh, the kids wouldn't get out of bed this morning, or you have a pile of laundry, and it just makes it real, and okay, I'm not, it just makes it feel relatable and normal, and I really liked that about it, that I felt like that I could relate to everybody there. It was actually a quite diverse group that we had, and yet we all had so much in common, because we were all just trying our best to parent.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you, Niamh, for coming on, and thank you, Rebecca, for taking time just to be with us tonight. It's really, really helpful to have your insight. Tanya, back to you.
Thanks, Emily. Sorry to jump the agenda forward a little bit there for you. That was so helpful, Niamh and Rebecca, just the invitation and the level playing field that we're all on parenting. I was speaking to somebody earlier who's going through a pregnancy and going through a scan, they had a little question raised, and once they said it to other parents, they're like, oh yes, that happened to me. And once you lift the lid on these things, people really do share, and that's what this parenting course is about. It's about lifting the lid and saying we're all on the same level playing field. Well, we are, I think John and I will just tell you a few bits more about the resources, and then we'll just open up for questions if you have them. So we obviously have said it's a 10-week or a 5-week course. You either show one video or you show two in a session. You either show it online or you show it in person, and create that hospitality that way around that. The resources that we have, Dom has showed you, is the USB. So now going forward, everybody will be buying a USB. John's holding up 2 books there. They're not USBs. Just hold 1 minute, John.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Going for the USB, obviously has all the videos on, and we'll probably put a little bit more on there going forward for you. We might even put that promo video on for you so that you could show that possibly in your own church, pop it on your Facebook, something like that. So all the talks are on there, and it is literally plug and play for your guests and for you. You need Zoom, obviously, going forward. John, the books, it's your moment. John has actually got a prop there of a baby, which is really helpful as well. John, you're muted, sorry. John, you're muted.
Went to try and find the nearest baby I could. So yeah,
so John is showing you there the books. Can you explain what those books are, John?
Yeah, so what we have here is we have the Parenting Teenagers course as a guest manual. So every single person will get one of these along with their USB. So basically what happens is you can get in touch with us and we can send them out to the people, or if you're a church and you want to do it, you can kind of get a reg of them from us and just pass it out to people in there. So they get one of these and the USB if you're doing an online course. Obviously, if you're doing an in-person course, they just need one of these each. And so what we'd say is that when you go to a household, just one of these per household is fine. Like there's questions in there, and both of the parents, if they're doing, can kind of fill it out with each other. So there's one for the Parenting Teenagers course, and there's one for the Parenting Children's course as well. There's also some leaders manuals that we have as well that we can give to you, and we have some digital versions of those too, should the need require on it too. And all of these courses, they're based off the book, the parenting book that Nikki and Cindy have as well. So, but we have all the resources. If you need anything at all, if you're interested in running it, you can get in touch with us there with it. So as Dan says, it's a great bit of hospitality on behalf of the church if you can provide the guests or the USB drives for that. Obviously, if you can't afford that per se, that's okay, but we try and keep the cost down. So what we're saying is €10 should postage and package plus everything all in per household should be able to get you the manual, the USB, and it posted out to their house. Obviously, if you have a few of the if you want to buy them as a church yourself, then we can sort out some rate for you to be able to get them and then to pass them out yourself. But anything that you need, you can get in touch with us. My email address is on there, or info at as well. You can get all the resources that you need from there.
Thanks, John. And Emma, baby Emma. So that's really enough information for you all. And you've heard there about running them online, running them on site. You've heard from the parents, and you've heard from William about the use of that within the context of running a church and your community. So fire away. There's a reactions option there on the right hand side at the bottom of your Zoom if you want to raise a hand that way, or literally raise your hand and unmute yourself, and we'll try and be polite and make sure that we don't cut across each other, and we're all here to answer questions. So fire away.
I can see the
Pam, and I can see you're unmuted there. Would you like to ask a question?
okay, Pam.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but we're as you can see, we're grandparents, and years ago, about 40 years ago, we did an evenings for parents, which were very good. But now we're involved with our daughters' children more and more in childminding. So, is there a role in have you grandparents who do the parenting course? Have there any experience of that? And because we're so out of touch with what's happening, you know what I mean?
But you know what, I haven't even thought about that, but I think that's a really lovely idea, actually.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. I don't see why not, because
they're not living with, they don't live with us, but we do go over, spend hours childminding our 8-year-old and our 6-year-old who has special needs. And
I think that's a really interesting idea. And Nikki and Scylla, who run the course, are our grandparents now. So I wouldn't see why not. And I'd say you'd have quite a lot of wisdom to impart in the discussion group as well. I can't see that being a barrier to entry. We'll just add a brackets grandparents group as well.
Thank you.
But I would say you'd be in a great position to run the course and facilitate it as well. I do think, particularly online, I don't know whether Rebecca would agree with me and Emily there, that having the wisdom of people who've been through it all and survived as hosts, particularly in person, I think is there's something really valuable about that.
Yeah, one thing just to mention as well, that this is kind of aimed at parents and guardians, and so it is like open as it's open to any kind of families and all different types of families, and extend the families onto that too. So there are some of the principles that will work for even beyond the kind of the nuclear families that we might think of as well on that. So
thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's good to hear that.
Has anyone else got a burning question about running parenting? William's here to answer church and community questions, and Rebecca as well.
Do you have any magical way of getting both of the couple attend the parenting course?
Any way of getting them both to? Well, I don't know what the guys would say about running them on site, but I do know we decided to do it as a sort of New Year's resolution type of thing in January, where we tucked in the 5 weeks there, and online we definitely got a good rake of 2 parents. We even had, I was going to say this earlier, we even had one parent, he's a security guard at Trinity College. He was at work online and his wife was at home, and they were both on, and we were able to put them both in the same discussion group, and they were able to do a course online in an evening when actually normally they were, they definitely wouldn't have been able to attend together. So maybe online is more possible. But then Rebecca and Emily and Niamh were saying about good timings in the evening. You might have some thoughts, Emily, Rebecca.
I have to say, I think that's a really good point, because I would have loved if my husband could do it as well. And actually last year we alternated. He went to 2 of the sessions and I went to the other 3. And it is almost impossible. I know realistically, yeah, this is such an important thing. We should be willing to pay for a babysitter so we can both attend the parenting course. But practically, we didn't do that the first time around, and then the last time it was in the morning, so it doesn't suit my husband. But I much prefer to do something in person, but I would really love if we both did it, because it just means we'd be on the same page and not having to explain it, because it's so much easier coming from somebody else rather than me going home and saying, well, the parenting course said this, and him thinking really it's me just telling him that. Parenting course says you should be doing the dishes. So if there was a way around that, and maybe the Zoom is the way around it, because it would just be so helpful for us both to have done it, I think.
Thanks, Niamh. And do you know what, I'm just thinking aloud here, because we've obviously been told to create these USBs. Been sending the USBs out now. There is a chance that one is on site bringing back the discussion, and one is at home watching it, or even you watch it together, at home, and then one of you alternates even for the discussion group, just to get the friendship and the community there. Just throwing that one out there. Now we are creating these USBs.
Well, I don't want to say something out of turn here, but presumably if a couple bought a USB, there's nothing stopping them downloading a video for themselves, isn't there? Is there from,
no,
from that?
they'll own the USB and they can just watch it online.
Yeah.
So they don't need to download, it's there for them. So it's
no, but if they were in 2 separate places on an evening and they were planning on watching it, then they could plan ahead, and that's all. That was my thought.
Yeah.
I have to say, we struggled to get both sides of the couple in person on a weekday morning, and we knew we were going to, and we just said, look, we'll run it for whichever parent is the stay-at-home parent. But we ran Alpha online and we got great turnout for that. So I don't see why. Actually, I think for a lot of parents, it would be ideal to be able to do it online and for them both to do it.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
If couples do the marriage course, it would be a lovely way to introduce them to the parenting if they're younger couples. I think they may be open to it.
Yeah, that's definitely true, and that followed on for us. We had people on the marriage course who followed on to the parenting course, because I think it does the same hosts, and it's a very non-judgmental environment. So if does anyone else have anything, because we are conscious that we're slightly over time this evening, but we don't want to miss anything if somebody has something they'd really like to ask.
Well, indeed.
If not, it's just to say, as always, we have a resource office. We don't have a physical office anymore, but we have lots of resources, and we're able to send anything that you want at any time. I think, John, that we were going to say, weren't we, there's a lot of things that are quite specific to your context when you come to running this course. So in your context, it would be good to just make contact with us, and we run coaching calls where we will actually walk through your context, your possible audience, and the way you might run the course, either on site or online, and we'll walk through just to make sure it's right for you and your audience, and breakout rooms, that sort of thing. Emily, have you anything more that you'd like to add there?
No, just that the breakout discussion, which we didn't do tonight, is so easy with the parenting course, because as Niamh said, we all want to talk about our children and our experiences and get support from each other. So I think for hosting a course, it's so easy to do it, and there's no pressure on what questions to ask, and the guide is really good at facilitating discussion. So just to encourage you that it runs by itself, and the discussion is just it's great. So that was all I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's actually